At one time, Saints Row was a promising franchise, a gritty urban crime saga that stood toe-to-toe with Grand Theft Auto. But as the years passed, something happened. It lost its identity, its charm, and, most importantly, its audience. What started as a competitor to GTA became an over-the-top parody of itself, until it finally hit rock bottom. Today, we're breaking down how Saints Row got worse with every release, and why it should never get another game. It all started in 2006. Saints Row was an instant hit, praised for its open-world crime gameplay and engaging story. Sure, it took inspiration from GTA, but it had its own identity, gritty gang warfare, a compelling revenge plot, and a serious tone that set it apart. It wasn't perfect, but it had the potential to be a true rival to Rockstar's Giant. What made Saints Row special was its focus on gang conflicts, intense action, and a world that felt alive. Players weren't just causing chaos, they were building an empire. But as the series went on, things took a drastic turn for the worse. Then came Saints Row 2, arguably the best game in the series. It refined everything. The world was more detailed, the gameplay was more polished, and the story found the perfect balance between serious crime drama and fun, chaotic moments. You could customize almost everything. The humor was dark but clever, and the city of Stillwater felt alive. Many fans consider Saints Row 2 the true high point of the franchise. But from here, things started to spiral downward. Saints Row 3 was the moment everything changed. For the worse. The game completely abandoned its gritty, street-level crime roots in favor of full-blown absurdity. The gangs became exaggerated caricatures. The missions felt more like ridiculous action set pieces, and the serious undertones that made the first two games stand out were tossed aside in favor of pure chaos. Sure, it was still fun, and for some, it was even the best in the series. The gameplay was smoother, the world was bigger, and the humor was undeniably entertaining. But for longtime fans, it was the beginning of the end. Then came Saints Row 4, and at this point, the series was completely unrecognizable. Instead of a crime saga, it turned into a full-blown superhero alien invasion game. You were no longer a gang leader. You were the president of the United States fighting aliens with superpowers. The gameplay? Fun, sure. But it wasn't Saints Row anymore. It was a parody of itself, a complete departure from everything that made the franchise great. By this point, longtime fans had enough. The series had gone from a legitimate rival to GTA to an over-the-top meme. As if things couldn't get worse, Volition tried to spin the franchise off into something new. Agents of Mayhem was supposed to be a fresh start, an evolution of the Saints Row universe with a different approach, but it flopped hard. The game lacked the charm and personality that made the original series special. The characters were forgettable, the humor felt forced, and the gameplay was repetitive and uninspired. It was clear that Volition had completely lost its way, and fans had finally had enough. Then, in 2022, Saints Row made a comeback, or at least that's what it was supposed to be. Instead, we got one of the worst reboots in gaming history. Gone were the memorable characters. Gone was the deep customization. Gone was any soul or identity. The new Saints Row wasn't just bad, it was embarrassing. The writing was cringe, the characters were forgettable, and the game itself was riddled with bugs. It felt like a cheap cash grab, with none of the charm or chaos that made the original games special. Fans and critics alike trashed the game, and it quickly became one of the biggest flops of 2022. At this point, it's painfully obvious. Saints Row should never release another game. The franchise had its time, but it lost its way. abandoning what made it special in favor of goofy gimmicks, bad writing, and soulless reboots. With Saints Row 2, it had the potential to be one of the greatest open-world franchises of all time. Instead, it became a cautionary tale of how to ruin a beloved series. Unless Volition, or whoever takes over, can bring back the magic, the grit, and the heart of the early games, it's time to let it die. What do you think? Should Saints Row ever make a comeback, or is it better left in the past? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more deep dives into gaming's biggest failures and successes.